Steve O'Donnell and Saroop Bharwani, welcome to see you on the show. I'm delighted to have you with me today to help us capture the boldest ideas with AI in the credit union movement. So I'd love to start hearing from either of you. Maybe Saroop, you're in the top of my screen, so you go first. Tell us, how did you get started working with credit unions, and maybe a little about those pictures behind you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Doug. Pleasure to be here. So I am Saroop Bharwani, co-founder of Senso. Most of my career has been working with my founding team on building like AI products for the financial services industry. I'm from Canada, so like the natural thing to do in Toronto is working for the big five banks, and that's kind of where I got my school of hard knocks, learning about the financial services industry. I was building large scale ML models for years. And in about 2021, I met the great folks at CU2 who introduced me to great guys like Steve and really fell into the credit union movement and loved the centricity of just being focused on people and serving for people and really creating impact in that way. And post ChatGPT, the world sort of exploded. Everybody wanted to know about AI, and I had the pleasure of meeting Steve and a number of other credit unions where we built a very industry specific product. And a little bit about these pictures. When ChatGPT launched, I started a podcast, call it, or a webinar in early 2023 called Fine Tune Fridays. And I actually used Midjourney to create these pictures on the call alongside credit unions. So these are who I feel are like heavy contributors to where we are today when it comes to AI. Johannes Gutenberg, the founder of the printing press. Language is a very big thing there. We got Nikola Tesla, who had a very big part in electricity. Electricity is the foundation of enabling compute and large scale pre-training. We got Turing over there, the inventor of the computer, and we got Steve Jobs, who, the personal computer. We wouldn't be on this podcast without that. So that's a little bit of background, auto-generated on a call with credit unions, and my wife just decided to take it upon herself to make that my background.
Very nice. Steve, tell us about your journey in credit unions.
Oh gosh, started as a teller back in 1997, actually for we were Nevada Federal Credit Union at the time, and back in 2010 we changed our charter to a community charter and a state charter, and our name to One Nevada. And from there, I've kind of just moved through the ranks. I'm the COO now, been here for 28 years. Actually, in that role a couple of months now. I'm a recovering CFO. And it was at that time where I met Saroop through the CU2 folks. And one of the things that resonated for me going through, listening to him and how passionate he was about the AI movement and, doing a lot of reading, you couldn't help but hear AI in everything you talked about at that time and still at this time today. But it was really interesting from an efficiency standpoint and understanding how credit unions are starting to think about relevancy more. And when you think about that, you got to be maybe less leading edge and more bleeding edge in some of this stuff. And so that's kind of where we went and started our conversations and started exploring all the possibilities. And I think it was even at that day when we first met, we had a conversation, and it was like 20 ideas rolled out of that conversation, and then a week later we had 20 more. And so obviously you got to start small on some of these things and get those quick easy wins, but I think the future of this is very exciting.
Yeah, so let's back up a little bit. So you were already attending Credit Union 2.0 events, right? That's what you're saying, Steve. So you're already attending those events, and that's a group of credit unions that I believe are kind of leaning into technology, looking for what's coming. What was that, a board initiative? Where did that how did that get decided that that was something you'd be doing?
It's something I kind of threw myself into, and this was through years of a relationship with Kirk Drake and Chris Odie, and Kirk had invited me one time. He said, "You got to be a part of this," because we were doing already some really cool things as a credit union, and a lot of that wasn't so much a board initiative, but the board supported it. And the reason that they supported it is because we had years of becoming more efficient. I mean, we started getting away from teller lines 20 years ago. And so when we were looking at it, we were trying to be digital first way back then. and how we deployed services and help our members be self-service. So a lot of those things require us to think outside of the box.
Yeah, so you met Saroop, and that was a great connection. But was it specifically, did you come to the meeting thinking that the this particular implementation of AI was how you were going to go about it, or did the connection is where you sourced this particular, which we're gonna unpack in a minute, like how you guys used AI, but did you have a strategic process around which implementation you would use for AI?
No, we didn't. I came into this looking at the agenda going, that's going to be one of the more important topics that we're going to cover during this 2 to 3 days that we were there. And I was really interested in it. But it wasn't until Saroop unpacked a lot of what the capabilities are and gave us that rundown of what was really happening in that space that we started seeing some of the ideas. And immediately the things that came to my mind is we had a big data initiative that we were working on. And so being able to connect AI, even though in its infancy, I mean, there's a lot of guardrails and things you got to think about. But just, thinking about where that could go and connecting the data and how that can empower our credit union to do things differently, your mind just started spinning.
Hey, Sarup, can you do a mini version of that right now? Like what Steve heard that caused this direction to become what One Nevada did?
Yeah, I'll share from my perspective. And that was about just over 2 years ago, which feels like a
Yeah,
very
that was
long
forever.
time in AI months, weeks. It just feels like eons ago. And I remember, Kirk and Chris invited me there in March 2023 to present about just what generative AI was. And like I did, and I think that it just sparked a lot of conversations between someone who's, coming from the outside in and someone like Steve and, Gary and Joey and the great people that we partnered with who've been in the credit union space for a while. And that clash of like different perspectives and different mindsets actually is what, Steve was talking about in terms of one idea led to 20 and led to 50. And like, there's so much you can do with this technology. And we're at the early stages of a platform shift. And in the early stages of platform shift, it's like everybody's inventing stuff as we go. The playbook is being created like right now as we talk, right? And so that's so much fun. Like just being a builder and a creator, I love to work alongside like-minded folks that know industry really well to create impactful solutions. And it's iterative. And you just got to find the right partners that are able to be iterative till you get to a point of success. And then you can build on top of that. And Steve and the others, they've been perfect partners and early adopters to really set the foundation and be trailblazers in their industry. And now, the rest of the industry has the benefit out of this because of the work we put in the early days. So it's super exciting to be where we are today. But it does feel like the last 2 years have really, really been like, a lot of iteration. And I'm talking about daily. And it's not only working with credit unions, but the models are improving every day. So keeping up has been quite challenging, but so much fun.
So what's the use case? What's the implementation? How did you talk me through that?
Yeah, so I'll start and then Steve can talk a little bit about from an implementation standpoint. But what my team has always been really, really good at, Tom, my co-founder, and myself and the team we put together is really processing data and just building models from scratch. We started with classical models, now LLMs. And like where we always sort of leaned into was knowledge. The fundamental first principles thinking is like in this AI wave, knowledge is going to be that one thing that never gets disrupted. In fact, you're always going to need more knowledge. People and members are always going to have more questions. So we really kind of like went down the rabbit hole of how do we take it upon ourselves to be the best at improving knowledge quality, or what I call improvement engineering, right? And so we really dug into that. And what we've been able to do over the past like couple of years across the credit unions we work with at Steve's organization is really ingest policies, procedures, guides, basically the entire knowledge base from like decentralized knowledge sources throughout the organization, consolidate that, make it accessible to MSRs on the front line in branch and in the call center, and really sort of like just go through this improvement cycle of analyzing what works and doesn't work on calls. We also ingest a lot of anonymized call data to assess what works and doesn't work. And that feedback loop allows us to continually improve knowledge quality. And we have a metric called response quality that measures like the quality of your content as it goes from like typically the average is 30 to 40% when a credit union starts with us, and they get up to 80 to 90% within weeks, and those that has a huge impact on call center performance. And that's just one use case we've uncovered that we've been successful on across like Steve's organization as well as other organizations as well.
I want to understand that metric. What was that 30 to 40% metric?
Yeah, it's called response quality, and it's essentially the metric is your content's effectiveness in actually providing MSRs in this case with effective information at the point of interaction with a member across calls and branches. And what we find there's subtle nuances when we analyze the context of a conversation, a call. There's little nuances where MSRs struggle to access information. They may put a member on hold because they can't find information in SharePoint. They have to call back office. The more people that call back office, there's a bottleneck in the organization, and all this stuff compounds. Whereas if you're able to provide and democratize access to information freely across the front line and measure the effectiveness over time, essentially you're creating better member experience because there's less wait time, there's higher resolutions and less escalations, and just the members feel better. And we're able to measure all of this down to the very granular detail of what's in the policy procedure guide. And that's just created a lot of impact, and continually improving on that is the foundation of where an organization needs to be in order to be what I call optimally efficient.
And I think the metric you said was about double. You about doubled that metric.
Typically, we see about 30 to 40% to 80 to 90% results in about a 5x reduction in back office calls. It's significant. Less members are on hold, and it's quite impactful in the get-go, something you can achieve in weeks.
Oh, and I bet you there's some other metrics that get, new accounts, conversions, additional deposits. So Steve, let's go over to you, Steve. So go back to the beginning of how you decided to implement, and then what the rollout process has been, and any metrics you can talk about.
Yeah, so for us, when it started, when Saroop and I first met, and we had a discussion, and he kind of gave us a glimpse into what he was thinking, and we thought that fit into a lot of different strategies for us. In fact, everything he was just talking about, I'm just starting to think of other ideas that we might be able to do now. But what the first thing that we did is we started thinking about a plan. Then I shared it with the management team here, and just kind of talked through use cases and scenarios and what we could do with this. And then we actually had Kirk and Saroop attend our planning session with our board towards the end of the year, as we started formulating our strategic objectives for the next year. And it was basically a situation of them giving a rundown to our board of what AI is and what it can do. And they had they were all blown away by it. They were really impressed, and they thought this made a lot of sense and it fit our model. And so from a metric standpoint, and just using the use case where he's talking about calls, I think that's a good one for us to look at, because I talked about 20 years ago, we started shifting away from tellers and getting people to use that branch that's in their pocket. And when we're doing that, we're sitting at about 75% of our members utilizing that on a daily basis to access the credit union. The unintended consequence with that is they don't come in your branches anymore. And so you don't see them, you don't know them. It's harder to cross-sell, but they do call into your contact center. And so one of the things that we've always been big on is getting that, and this has been a strategy for credit unions for a long time, is a 360-degree view of your member. And that's basically looking at all the data of your member and being able to, what's the next best product to sell? What's the loyalty look like? What do you need to do to push them into another direction? Or if you're seeing attrition trends, et cetera. But what you don't have is you don't have sentiment. And so we may have a member that's contributing to the cooperative and doing a lot of good things, but when they call in, they're just irritated all the time. And so that was a piece of data that wasn't a part of our scope. And now that's something that could be part of that scope. And we'll use that to look at it. And then we need to have different conversations. We believe at One Nevada that we need to be showing those members love all the time. And that's something that we're really focused on. And I think this will help us get there.
Have you changed the credit union's tagline to love all the time? Because I think that's a great thing.
Well, it was our one focus is you. So maybe we'll work on that.
I like it.
And Doug, if I could add a couple of stats in there on One Nevada, they're amongst the highest response quality across all credit unions. They're at 92%. So they've been maintaining their documents incredibly well. And I'm looking at their conversational data, their calls, and we see resolution rates going up. We see sentiment getting better. We see handle times reducing across a number of categories. Now, of course, there's always other categories to improve, but we can tell across any type of loan, across payments, across disputes, where the issues are, and really get context on how to resolve that. And working closely with Steve's great team in terms of chipping away at how to get to optimal efficiency is now a data driven exercise. It's not like invisible to anyone. It's like all the data is all of a sudden in front of you, and you're able to actually consolidate thinking in terms of how to solve these problems and chip away to optimal efficiency.
Yeah, I'd add to that too, in terms of, one of the focus that we have here is being able to upskill our staff and let them have more time to engage with the member on deeper relationships. And doing these things with AI in the front of this is allowing us, because resolution is happening at a quicker rate. So it allows our staff to do other things and gives us the opportunity to upskill. And so it's that adage where everybody's talking about AI is going to replace things. Well, it's going to augment things for us, and we're working on doing that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Is there any examples that you can cite of what that upscaling is?
Yeah, one of the biggest examples that we have is, a few years ago, the biggest metric for us from a contact center perspective was how quickly you can get that member off the phone and then get to the next call. So the service levels were really strong, and we didn't have phone calls dropping off. Well, now that has completely changed, and our average call is increased by 2 or 3 times, and that's because we're engaging with those members that really need things answered, and we're not rushing them off. And so we're creating better loyalty. We've seen our attrition numbers drop as a result. And so I think we're seeing a lot of positive things from that we're still learning. Every day we're going to see different things that are results of these impacts and changes that we're doing.
And
Yeah.
that's something we learned too, Doug. Just sorry to interrupt, but we learned that too. Initially, our mentality was you want to get average handle time as low as possible across everything. And then when talking to Steve and his team, they're like, wait a minute, no, actually, we want to actually spend more time engaging them. And we analyzed the data, sentiment is higher on a lot of those calls. And even really what I call elegant cross sells are happening where, it's actually a product that they need and want that's tangential to the conversation they're having. So it doesn't seem like a sleazy salesman. It seems like an actual advisor helping a member. And it's really, really incredible to see that. I learn new things from Steve and his team every day.
I've got one more use case that has been really positive for us too, and it's looking at the contact center not just as an inbound call, but we are now doing outbound calls because they have time to do that. And so now we're calling members, and it's like the pandemic was a good example. We would reach out to them and say, "Hey, how are you doing?" But that was a concerted effort. Now we have the time and capacity to be able to do that and have different discussions with members. Especially if problems arise, we're getting in front of it, and they feel like we care about them because we do.
So I want to open that up a little bit. So what is the staffing the same number of staff, and you're spending more time on the calls, but yet you're handling more calls, or how is it that there's extra time if the calls are longer and you got the same amount of staff?
I know, it's amazing, right?
Yeah,
it doesn't add up.
Yeah.
So what's happened is, we've got a couple of different tools. We're using chat bots, and we've got a tool, Posh, that's in front, that Senso then is on the back end of that. And so all of those things combined have positioned our calls. It used to be 28,000 a month that we would get. Now we're down to 16 to 17,000 because they're being handled. And so the ones that are important get to the agent deals with those, and that frees up the time.
So the members are getting their question answered by other systems, right? And it's only the calls that need that human interaction that are making it through to your call center. Is that the right way to summarize that?
Yep. And then those calls that are getting through, we're learning so much about them through the Senso platform.
Very interesting. So that's been now. Have you expanded the use case beyond the source of the best training, the best knowledge for your call center representatives? Is that grown into other areas of the credit union?
I'll let you comment on that.
Yeah, no, I would love to. I mean, this is very recent, but again, like working with a very collaborative group of credit unions, you learn about new use cases and new ideas. And one that emerged sort of from the dust was marketers asking us, "Hey, you're improving knowledge for your policy, the credit unions policies, procedures, and guides. Can you do it on our website?" And so we started to go through an analysis about like six months ago on, hey, what if we can identify gaps on websites using the same engine, and really sort of recommend to marketers on how to fill those gaps. Well, what really kind of like, and this is completely serendipitous, what started to become really important is, the transition of behavior from searching on Google for 10 blue links to searching on ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, Gemini, Meta AI now, and the many other AI platforms. That transition is happening very, very quickly. And now, all of a sudden, instead of optimizing your answers for keywords, search engine optimization, which is allocated budget that every marketer in the world has been spending time on for the past 2 decades, instead, you need to optimize for generative engine optimization and optimizing for the optimal answer on the AI search platforms. So what we've been able to do is leverage our content improvement engine for the improvement of your web content to be more visible and relevant on the major AI search platforms. And we've just rolled that out. We've set a baseline across about 200 credit unions to date, and we're adding 50 or 60 new ones a week. Steve and his team have their visibility scores on how they rank within their state, within Nevada, and it's hyper localized. We can get down to the community level in terms of how visible you are in your community. And the beautiful thing is, we're not only ranking each credit union within their community, we're ranking the movement as a whole. So this is how credit unions as a whole are ranked relative to other financial institutions like banks or mortgage providers, et cetera.
Is that something you can show us and talk through while we're on the podcast together? Is that content that's appropriate for this space?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
I want to
If
show
you'd
us
like, I
Steve's
can.
insight.
I mean,
Go ahead.
Steve, if you're good with it, I could share your insights in terms of how you're ranking on ChatGPT.
Yeah, actually, that's a good one. Yeah.
So what you're seeing right now, I'm in geo.senso.ai/credit-unions. And essentially what this is it's, think of it as a network. It's a network of credit unions, and we've ranked about 200 credit unions right now on how visible they are on ChatGPT. Okay, we've just started there. You see the leaderboard over here, top ranked credit unions that have been, that have a GEO score. And again, generative engine optimization is, what is your share of voice? What percent of the answer includes your credit union in your locality? So I'll switch over to what the post dashboard looks like. So what you see here is one Nevada credit union, and they've been mentioned out of 10 questions we've asked that are trending in the credit union space in Nevada. They've mentioned 9 out of 10 times. Their visibility ranking is about 4. And their share of voice, the percent of the answer that includes one Nevada, is 7.6%, relative to 7.2%, which is the average in the industry. So they're actually doing better than the average in Nevada, right? Which is a very good thing. Now, there's always room for improvement. We want to get a share of voice up to 10%, which is a good, percentage, 10%. Visibility ranking, we obviously want to get to number 1, and we want to get them to mention in all answers. So here's an example. As a college student in Nevada, which credit unions have the top no-fee student check-in with nationwide ATM access? In this answer, and this is just on ChatGPT, they came up 10th. One Nevada came up 10th, and their share of voice was 10.2%. So 10.2% of this answer down to the character level includes one Nevada. But they were 10th, so there's a lot of room to improve their content on their website to get them ranked higher.
Yeah, now that only looks like it compared to other credit unions. I imagine if you let that compare to banks and fintechs, it would be interesting to see what that looked like.
Yeah, exactly. I think some of these answers would compare you to banks and fintechs. I think we did this exclusive to credit unions, but we're starting to open it up to the broader base because, again, it's important that you're not just ranking against your peers in the credit
Yeah.
union space, but like, you're ranking higher against the broader financial services network.
And
Yeah,
then,
there's an example number 7 there. It said Ally Bank
ah,
There
Credit
you go. Yeah.
Union. Technically a bank, but has a digital option.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? One thing I will say is that one thing we notice here is that like when the GPT generates a result, a lot of the time the rates are wrong, the terms are wrong, and there's just a lot of room for improvement because we have like Steve's first party data. Really making the answers more relevant is something that Senso specializes in. And really, what questions to ask because we have the call data. It's like we can ask the most trending questions based on real voice of member in Nevada, right? And really, that's the key for what makes the Senso platform special and unique is that we're able to improve based on real questions and we're able to improve based on real first party data that's unstructured that all of a sudden becomes relevant in these answers. So that's really what we're excited about for the future.
getting better and better and better, better training for the member service reps, resulting in better service to the member. And hopefully, Steve might even have some data on additional cross-selling success or new accounts. Have you seen any pickup in that area, Steve?
I think that's still in its infancy stages as we try to connect some data points, but that is the goal.
Yeah, I would think so. Now, Saroop, does this data on optimizing for the models, what's like you see where you're ranked, and then what do you do about it?
Yeah, so that's the beauty of it. Because we have so much first party data from One Nevada internally, their teams are already using our improvement engine internally to understand what questions can and can't be answered. And then it's just a exercise of structuring that information the right way, pushing it into their CMS so that robot.txt captures it. There's some configuration work we do there. And then it's just continuing to re-rank One Nevada across these questions on a weekly, monthly basis until they get to a high improvement ranking. The point is, it's in our control.
Yeah, and it's a mental shift for the marketers to go from optimizing for SEO to optimizing for an AI model. It's one that I have not had a discussion on before, so thank you for bringing it up. I think there's a whole lot more to that. Backing up for example, on from what you've done with Steve and the team at One Nevada, can you talk to us about any different use cases, especially really successful ones across the credit union movement? How many credit unions are you working with right now, Saroop? About?
About a dozen, and that's growing quite quickly now. We've been
Yeah.
incubating the product with about we incubated it with about 7 credit unions in the first year, and now really hitting our stride with the solution now that it's stable and it's functioning, and have credit unions like Steve's to thank on really being that early adopter for us.
Mm-hmm. Are the use cases the training and knowledge bank each time, or are there other use cases?
We've gone deep with knowledge improvement because that is a rabbit hole, infinite rabbit hole, right? And being focused is critical, and we feel that knowledge is the center of a lot of like really impactful use cases. We've talked about two: call center optimization. We've talked about visibility on the agentic web, visibility on your website. I'm seeing a lot of other use cases out there, right? There's great solutions on the unified communication side. Steve talked about Posh, and there's other ones there that are really kind of like focused more on the actually in the engagement of the member. And we're a feed into that, but really that engagement side requires a lot of attention there. That's a very obvious one there. There's a lot of fraud use cases out there, like capturing fraud, reducing false positives, right? Like those are like very impactful. And I would say that as impactful as AI is for good things, detecting fraud, there's also more fraud happening. So these tools are making it easy for like malicious actors to, really kind of like get creative with regards to how to like, voice phish a member and, access their account and various other things. I think I remember in the board meeting with Steve, I think I mimicked, your CEO's voice in front of everyone, and like, everyone was kind of stunned, right? But it really made it real in terms of like the threats that are going on as well, which is essential in the financial services industry. We always want to do the fun stuff, but like there's the protection side as well.
Mhm.
Very much. Well, as we wrap up our discussion, if you can think for a listener on this, someone listening to this podcast that might not yet have decided how to implement, where to go first, what to use to guide their AI strategy. If you can comment around what you might suggest that they do. Steve, I particularly love it for you to talk a little bit about the Credit Union 2.0, like what you've gotten from that and what your thoughts are around there. And then again, just any general thoughts around how should a credit union start if they haven't yet done so?
Yeah, so starting with the 2.0, for us, it's just been a really good spot for collaboration. I mean, meeting with a lot of different credit unions and fintechs that are thinking about the same things, and a lot of us have the same problems we're trying to solve, and we're all working to that end. And so the collaboration has been really interesting, even with the fintechs. I mean, I've had many opportunities to get a couple of fintechs together in the same room and say, this is what we're dealing with. It looks like each one of you can kind of get together and solve this. And I've seen some of that happen. So it's been very interesting from that standpoint. And as far as getting a credit union to start and take the first step on this, I don't know, can we ask that Chat GPT? Is it still listening?
I muted it. It was just too eager to talk to us, but we can ask it. But let's give Saroop a chance first.
Yeah, no, see you too, Kirk and Chris. I mean, great advocates for the credit union movement and just technology in general. And Kirk's all in with AI. So is Chris. I would say also Lamont Black, who we saw at Edge last week, is really like spreading some really good thought leadership. And I know that it'd be great if he came on your pod. He coined a term last week called artificial business intelligence. And really, I mean, describing like in words what Senso has built from the ground up, being able to kind of really access unstructured data in a very flexible way to generate content, extract insights is essentially what the basis of the Senso platform does. But having that thought leadership from someone like Lamont has been like really impactful from the top down. So he's a great resource, and I would recommend reading his material. And artificial business intelligence is the term. We've developed an AI sandbox. I'll send you the link right here. It's senso.ai/sandbox for credit unions to just want. It's like a playground. You want to get started and really start to kind of like get your feet wet with the tools. Literally just will give you access and just get a glimpse, right? A lot of the time, it's like credit unions are unaware of what's possible, and if you kind of like make it possible, like, and show them possible, like very easy, they'll start to unlock like superpowers in their heads, and like all of a sudden they'll dive in. And then lastly, I think I spend most of my time in Silicon Valley, and I do regular hackathons, so I'm seeing what's emerging from the dust with like the development community there, and really bringing that knowledge back to IT teams within the enterprise that are struggling with things like consolidation of data, and engaging those IT leaders like Jesse at One Nevada and many others on calls on how to kind of get through these barriers is another thing that I actively do on the education side.
Well, thank you for that. We'll include those notes in the podcast, and we'll reach out to Lamont Black and see if we can get his artificial business intelligence as a part of one of the episodes coming soon. So, Saroop and Steve, thank you so much for finding the time to help us capture the leading ideas for the credit union movement in AI. I love what you're doing for your membership for the credit union movement as a whole. And don't slow down, because it's only going to get faster.
That's right.
Yep, exactly.
Thank you, guys.